Yo, what's up, fanatics? Today is a real big day. Most of the times I get to deal with all the athletes and coaches. But today we get to do something a bit cool. I get to slide up on the doc himself. That's Dr. Steve Gallen III. He was actually the main man who actually came up with the idea of reclassification.
Dr. Gallen's item is review of FHSAA classification of high school athletic programs. This item has been co-sponsored by Dr. Benders Winningo, Ms. Castillo, Dr. Feldman, Dr. Perez, and Ms. Rojas, and myself. Dr. Gallen is your item, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't sign up to speak for it. My colleagues they did, so the item as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carp. Dr. Carp is not here right now. Ms. Navarro, you pass? So I need a motion on H11.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry. Dr.
Okay.
Feldman, have you signed up? I'm sorry.
I did.
My apologies, sir. Yes.
Not
Yes,
a
sir.
problem. I'll be very quick. We first heard about this during the committee meeting, and it was extremely timely. I noticed that the FHSAA heard about it also, and as a result have already realigned the way you have expected it to, and certainly want to thank you for being the proactive action revolver part of this. Otherwise, it might not have been done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank all of my co-sponsors for this issue. This is a from county line to Florida city issue. And although they have begun to address Dr. Feldman, the initial ones that I'm sure that caused some angst and got a lot of attention, the item does reflect a review of all sports. So it's going to be a continuation within the window that we have. So staff, I'm sure, is anticipating that. So it's not limited to what they've addressed. We have subsequent sports. So I appreciate that, and definitely I was humbled and honored that they actually dropped them exactly where we knew they should be. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Carp is not here. So I need a motion on H11.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passes.
So we wouldn't have to beat up on each other all the time, because it makes sense that we have our own lanes. Because when I was playing ball, like when we played against the West and Carroll City, I graduated from Central, by the way, majority of the time, like we was better than all the other teams that was going to state. Even the West or Carroll City, even if they had beat us or we had beat them, the other teams that were going to state in the other classes, they suck. And I mean, that's just what it is. They really suck. Like, we would have beat them to sleep on our worst day. And it's been like that for a while. And it always used to be a talk amongst our peers, like, yo, man, how so-and-so made it to state, man. It was trash. We beat them by like 40. Imagine if we were in different classifications, or we would run the state. Couldn't nobody beat us. And for a long time, that just seemed like a myth. But the doc actually he actually made it happen. And I don't know if y'all know anything about Dr. Steve Gallen, man. He is actually like one of the dopest people you could be around. Like, seriously, man. So to actually go over here and sit down with him, man, I'm excited. And we doing it. So, made it to the spot. Before y'all do anything, make sure that y'all like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be right back.
Got on the same color, man.
Say what's up.
Too many cats, man.
What's up,
You got that money?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let me, what's going on outside? Some drink?
Yeah.
Some water, some tea?
Water fine.
Water, tea?
Water fine, doc. We vibing with the doc.
Okay. Come on out here, man.
Hey, pretty girl.
As you can see, I was sitting up here on the laptop just now, working on another master plan after this weekend's experience.
You see, I came fit for the occasion. I got my slides on.
That's it, man. That's it. That's it.
I see, I got my slides on.
We can sit out here and have a conversation relative to the history that this community, our schools, and more importantly, our student athletes made on behalf of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Miami-Dade County, South Florida in general. So
I appreciate you allowing me to come to your home. We ran into each other at the game, and I told you how big that decision that you came up with was for our community. And me personally, man, like I said, I just want to thank you. I really want to know, like, how did you get to that point? Like, what made you say, you know what, enough is enough? Because like I was telling everybody, man, when I was coming up, it was genuinely, the competitiveness was good, but I knew that we were way more dominant than a lot of schools in a lot of districts that were winning state championships. And a lot of the schools, even though we beat up on each other, we were deserving to win state championships because we were far better than a lot of the competition. And it was like a wish. Like, man, I wish this and I wish that. So now all of a sudden, you like a genie right now. You literally, we rubbed the lamp, and now we just set a record in South Florida. So thank you again. How did you come up with it all?
Well, a record in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
I just saw the recent article that came out this morning. I'm a little fatigued, very excited. Just got back. So again, welcome to my home. I appreciate the work you've been doing. You know, I'm a supporter of FANIT, supporter of you, supporter of your movement to elevate this whole conversation around high school athletics and really get into the details of what goes on into not only athletics but education in general. So we hightailed it back, got a little settled, and here we are right now. Again, this was born, quite frankly, out of a conversation. I'm a member of the executive board of the Florida School Boards Association. Last November, at the end of November, and I don't tell everybody this story, but everybody's going to hear it right now for the first time. They've heard the stories of me being a high school principal of Northwestern for 7 years. So I have great experience with high school athletics at the highest level. They've seen some of the documentaries, some of the archives of the work that we did during the time that I was principal. So I'm no stranger to high school sports. When I got back here in Miami-Dade County Public Schools and have been fortunate to be elected to the school board and now serving as the vice chair, I've been paying very close attention to the high school athletic scene. I'm always excited to come out on a Friday, Saturday night, even Thursday night to really watch our student athletes perform, not only in football but in all sports. I'm also a member of the executive board of the Florida School Boards Association. I think I mentioned that previously. And we were at the Florida School Boards Association conference in Tampa last November of 2018. You obviously have your day sessions, but in the evening you go out to dinner and you have an opportunity to network, collaborate, and communicate with people from various parts of the state. It was at dinner with some of my colleagues from around the state that, quite frankly, I was inspired to address this particular issue. And the conversation was very simple. How long you been a school board member? What did you do before becoming a member? I was a superintendent. I was a district administrator. I was a high school principal, and most notably, they'll stop there where Miami-Dade County. What high school? Miami Northwestern Senior High School. And the gentleman at the time said, "You guys have great football down there at Northwestern." And another gentleman said, "Not only at Northwestern, they have great football in Miami-Dade County." That was fine. But then the statement that was followed was, "You guys sure know how to beat the hell out of each other down there in Miami." And at that very moment, I was inspired to take a look at that. I didn't really respond in terms of what my thoughts were. That's kind of how it's been for decades in terms of the Northwestern, the Central, the Carroll City, the Jackson, the Booker T, the New Orleans, the Homestead, the South Ridge, the Killian. all of those schools that have been noted to be powerhouses, Miami High, Coral Gables at some point, that's just how it's been. So I started to take a look at that particular structure based on what were the provisions and policies of the Florida High School Athletic Association. Many of us mention FHSAA, that is the Florida High School Athletic Association, but not too many of us are familiar with the organization as it exists and how it came into existence. The Florida High School Athletic Association has been around for over 100 years. It was established in 1920.
Wow.
So you start to frame the dynamics of the state of Florida, the state of education, quite frankly, the state of this nation in the 1920s. It was started by a group of principals out of Gainesville, Florida. So they established this as an organization, as a network to really support and monitor and administer high school athletics. And again, I can't overemphasize, we're talking about 1920 it was established in Gainesville. 1920 in Gainesville by a group of about 12, 13 principals. So
kind of know what that means.
you can imagine what that composition looked like at the time.
Absolutely.
They continued to exist throughout the decades, and in 1997, the Florida legislature adopted them as the official organization for high school athletics in the state of Florida. I always start with looking at what are the rules and regulations relative to how things are done. So after I did some further research as it relates to their role and their responsibility, I also noted that as educational as a local experience, local school districts and even local schools have a role and a responsibility. I cited the bylaw relative to reclassification, and I found out that our schools have been improperly classified for years. The classification provision is determined by enrollment. Enrollment had either increased or declined, and that role and that responsibility was left to one or two entities, either to the High School Athletic Association or the individual school to take some appropriate action to request that their school be reclassified. Obviously, that didn't happen for many of our schools. So I realized that one approach as an elected school board member, and one that is a part of a team of board members that provide direction to the school district, we could address this issue, talk about it, but we can also act on it. And the window for acting was very short,
Right.
because we were approaching the timeline in which that reclassification determination was going to occur.
Oh, wow.
I started to have some conversation with individuals at FHSAA, expressed some kind of quiet concern. I didn't show my hand. I did not show my full hand.
Real poker player.
It was more about asking about the process,
Okay.
expressing some concerns. When was the last time it was reviewed? Whose role and responsibility it is for reclassification? And I said to myself, what if an entire school district makes a determination to appropriately classify their high schools with respect to the provisions and bylaws of FHSAA? At the state high school football game, I was having a conversation with Larry Bloomstein, the reporter, because somebody must have shared that I was contemplating doing this, and he came over and he asked me about it. And I said, yes, I'm looking at this particular issue, and I think it's something that's critically important. He recognized that if there are some shifts in Miami-Dade County, it could also upset some things across the state, and that was just a part of a general conversation. After that, an article came out that I was contemplating that, so I got contacted by an official that asked me, could they be of assistance? What was I thinking about? What were my plans? And if I were going to look at a reclassification, what criteria would I use? And I said, I'll use your criteria. The criteria that's in your bylaws, your rules, and your regulations. How can we, give me that tea, baby. How can we assist you? How can we support you? What can we do to address some of your concerns? I said nothing. I'd already filed a beholder, and I got a sense that they were kind of concerned. And again, this is a person that I spoke with just kind of randomly, but that does have some interest in that particular association. After that, I filed the item. The momentum started to go. The media started to pick up on it. I shared with my board members in a public meeting. Lo and behold, the item was co-sponsored unanimously. It was passed unanimously because it made sense. Subsequent to that, the High School Athletic Association reclassified them consistent with the manner in which the rules called for and that I had suggested that we needed to do. So that's how we kind of got there.
Okay, so you really was on a time frame, right?
Yes, because there's a deadline to submit for reclassification. So if you don't submit by that deadline, the classifications for the most part would remain the same.
Wow.
Again, it's either the state association is going to do it or an individual member school could do it.
Right.
What we have seen is that for the past many years, nobody did it.
Right.
But people were comfortable with it because what we were doing here is cannibalizing each other,
Right.
to the benefit of a lot of schools that would never have to compete with us because they stayed in certain classes that they would never ever face us in a championship or a playoff game.
Right. So to our community, it was more so like, well, you know, we live a lot off of bragging rights where we're from. You know, we take a lot of pride in our schools down here in South Florida, especially in the inner city areas. And one thing that I saw that was moving to me was the support that they have for each other. This past week has been amazing.
Yes.
And I can honestly speak for a lot of the kids.
Talk to me, big baby. Came to play. Love you, man. Thank you for everything you do for us, man. I really love you. Appreciate
Love you, man. You know I love you, baby. You know, because a lot of those kids play together on parks growing up. So they're able to actually let's put it like this, we're in the age of social media. So now they're able to make collages of one another, once competing against each other, but now giving each other credit, hugs, they showing up to each other's games. Like that's one of the things, man, I think the reclassification did for our community. Like, can you speak on that part? Like, what you...
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. The language that I would often use was cannibalism.
Right.
We would eat each other up. We would beat each other up. And again, to quote the gentleman at the dinner meeting in Tampa, he said, you down there in Miami, your high school football programs beat the hell out of each other every year. So we were engaged in a process of cannibalism. What the reclassification subsequently did and what we have witnessed over the past week, which I believe is beyond football, it went from cannibalism to communalism.
Yes.
So we now
Dade County, we're a family.
Yes.
So we now became one community. Whether
Yes.
you at Central, whether you at Northwestern, whether you at Booker T. I must say, you know, District 2 schools didn't get in, but I was cheering like hell for, District 1 schools didn't get in, District 2 schools got in, and I was cheering like hell for my colleague, Dr. Dorothy Bendros-Mendengal, and the schools that she represents. Right. District 1 is coming. We're coming. We are coming. District 1 is coming. But what you did see are the various schools supporting each other.
Yeah.
Not only the players, but the coaches.
Yep.
You had the coaches that were cheering for each other.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. It started to be very organic. After the first game, when Booker T, you saw people say, okay, Booker T, you on the clock.
Right.
And this is coming from other schools.
Right.
After Booker T won, other schools are complimenting and congratulating Booker T.
Absolutely.
And Booker T is saying, okay, you all go up and pick up the mantle. It's like a marathon.
Absolutely.
Now the baton was being handed to another school.
Absolutely.
At the time it was Central or one of the other private schools that were locally. And
Yep.
it didn't limit it to the public schools.
Yep.
They were cheering on some of the local
Yep.
private schools.
Champagne Yacht.
Champagne Yacht.
Yeah.
Columbus.
Yep.
Chaminade, Madonna.
Yep.
It just
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas, it started to really become very organic, and social media has become a very important platform for everybody to understand that story, but also to participate
Yes.
and to help create that narrative about a community.
Yeah.
And so you saw that evolve. Booker T handled it. Then now Central is up. Central, you on the clock.
Yep.
Central destroyed a team,
Yep.
62,
Yep.
24, 27. And I mean, they really set the standard in terms of what those expectations were going to be moving forward. I mean, Booker T. Washington had a very exciting game down to the wire, but everybody was cheering for them. You could be from Miami Gardens, you could be from Opelika, you could be from Liberty City.
Central whole team, coaches, players, trainers, cheerleaders, they came up early on Wednesday to come out there and support Booker T. While we was up there, the whole stand was filled up and they were supporting that community, and that touched and moved me in a way like no other, because to actually see these teams had just played each other earlier on in the year, and it came down to the wire, and now to see the resiliency come from Booker T, especially because you know that was that's Harlem of Miami growing up. So now these kids come up and they're down, but they didn't give up. And you see Central kids rooting them on. You see their coaches rooting them on. Oh man, it was one of the dopest experience any person could witness firsthand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
from cannibalism to community. A couple of weeks earlier, they may have been fighting each other. You know, it was a lot of smoke between the two teams.
A lot of smoke.
Very exciting. Came down to the wire. And again, now weeks later, they're cheering them on. I mean, very organically, and that was really the theme that evolved moving forward. And again, everybody started punching the clock. After Central, Northwestern, you on the clock. Columbus, you on the clock.
Stansfield.
I mean, everybody really supporting each other, and to see that we ran the table here in South Florida, and as indicated today, a record was broken in terms of the number of high school championships to come from not only Miami-Dade, but from one particular area of the region.
Question: where do you see this thing going? Because I mean, where do you see this thing going? Because me personally, I honestly think that this may happen every year. like I don't know whether the North teams may have to start teaming up or partnering up, but I think South Florida has the ability to take over each classification every year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that right now, as it was indicated, there was always thought, speculation, theories that South Florida had the best student athletes and best football teams in Florida.
Absolutely.
This week confirmed it. The record books, the championships, the level of play confirmed it. And the level of fan and community participation was icing on the cake. Clearly, obviously, the next morning there is some thoughts around what does the future hold for those districts in the state of Florida that can't compete at the highest level. So we always got to anticipate. While last year in 2018 we played chess, right now they may be playing checkers, but I don't ever think they're playing checkers. They may be playing chess, but we got to anticipate what would that look like. I have some thoughts as it relates to, you know, what we need to continue to do. We need to continue to stay engaged. I have some thoughts about the venues and things that nature that really speak to the ability of South Florida to bring out a tremendous fan base. And there's some also there are other thoughts I have relative to the overall structure in the relationship for member schools, of which I probably won't divulge at this particular time. I got to go back into the lab and do some more research. But I will say this: stay tuned. There will be some other thoughts and some other announcements relative to how we can continue to support our student athletes, continue to provide for excellence, to continue to provide for educational, athletic, and quite frankly, economic equity and opportunity for our schools. Our schools really make a lot of sacrifices. Our communities make a lot of sacrifices. We make a lot of investments, and I think we have to have that conversation. I think I started out talking about an organization, and this is not to indict the organization, but the facts are what the facts are. The organization was founded in 1920 in Gainesville by a small group of individuals. It has grown obviously, and has existed for over 100 years. And this week has shown that change was needed. We know that change is inevitable, but very often we don't make the changes that we need to do. And I'm very, very proud, very, very humble, very, very excited about the support of my board members that supported this item wholeheartedly, our superintendent, our district administrators, our principals, our community members, and more importantly, our student athletes that help us create lightning in a bottle as it relates to the class reclassification. And as you know, the hashtag evolved. Everybody eats, B.
Everybody eats. Everybody eats.
So in this particular case, the dinner table was set. Everybody had a chance to eat. And as we look at this beautiful Sunday morning back home from Daytona Beach, everybody ate. But I can tell you right now, I can't tell them they don't need to get too full, because we have a whole lot of things that we want to prepare moving forward in the future. But it's always going to be predicated on the opportunity of everybody eating, everybody having a chance to come to the table, compete with each other throughout the year, but not deny each other an opportunity to compete at the highest level of athletics, to pursue not simply entertainment, but to pursue an education on behalf of our students. So again, FANIT, always love my brother. Always love.
Definitely, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Man, coming in, let me come into your home, your castle, meet your daughter, man. It's been a pleasure, brother.
It's all love, brother. All love. All love.